tickets are selling. People are going, whatever the number is, whether it's 72, 70, 80, hard 80, whatever.
Yeah, if
It
they were
means it's a popular event.
if they were significantly down in
Correct.
ticket sales, they wouldn't stop selling them in April.
That's right.
They wouldn't. Yeah, and I also was looking back because I couldn't remember what years are considered sellouts in Bonnaroo, and it's only a few.
Yeah.
It's only 5.
That's what I was
maybe?
going to say, 5. That was the number I was thinking.
A couple early, 2019, 2020. Some say 21 almost got there. The hurricane year almost got there. And then 02 and 03 and maybe 04. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, this isn't a slam dunk guaranteed sellout thing. But it is get to the number that they're looking for most of the time. So
welcome back to the What Podcast. I'm Barry. That's Russ. That's Brian. It is 1st of April, basically.
we are
so
here.
close. We are so close. Yeah.
For those that don't know, April's my favorite time of the year. So.
Yeah. Brian has he's got like 3 months that he designates that he likes, and he hates the rest of them.
That's pretty much true. Yeah, that's pretty much true. It's April, it's June, it's September. April,
and
June, September.
if the headlines were correct, it's the worst pollen count in the history of Georgia, and I believe it because we're right there on it.
I saw what you're talking about, and I question everything I see online nowadays, and but there was some pictures circulating, that were, just green skies. Yeah. Green skies. It's pretty wild, but yeah, that's certainly one thing that's not fun about April, but I'll deal with it.
It's an awful time of the year to have a black car too.
Yeah, or a white one, which is what I had. Yeah.
White and black cars do not work in this green pollen madness.
I mention it because of the numbers, but also I'm sure you guys can hear it in our voices, and I apologize for that. But anyway, we have a veritable smorgasbord, a potpourri of topics that we're going to get to today, but mostly we're going to start our deep dive into the bands that you guys have reached out and shared with us that we need to check out. Russ was good enough to put a bunch of them on our Discord. If you're not already a member, please join in the conversation. I thought it was so cool how nice everybody was about reaching out to like Lena and Bosco, Greg, and our winners, and congratulating them and just, telling us nice, good pick, that kind of thing. That's cool. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, and everybody's involvement with the giveaway too. That was, and then the music discovery part is one of my favorite parts of this, and it's and I we can Google and find things and look around ourselves, but when we people who enjoy this and people we enjoy conversing with and having a dialogue with, I take what y'all say way more seriously than I do any other search or anything online that I can find. And most of my friend circles, they've grown out of this. Like, y'all are my best friends when it comes to Bonnaroo stuff, because most everybody still kind of, it's looked at as like, boy, Brian and that Bonnaroo thing, he just never going to give that up.
He won't grow up. Come on, Peter Pan.
He's never going to quit that. He's like,
come on, Peter.
Yeah, time to grow up, dude.
Well, all the suggestions are good except for kitchen dwellers, right?
Except for kitchen dwellers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. He did say He did say he was trolling you. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, I didn't know. Yeah. Okay. I should have understood. Picked that bait out of there quicker than.
Speaking of, and I just because Russ, you did it last week, and Michael, I think, right? Showed off some vinyl, and Brian, you've done it before. I had a really good friend of mine, and I don't know where he got it, but he gave me this week. 5 disc Miles
Explain
Davis.
what you got, because not everybody can see video on this podcast.
It's a 5 disc, 5 album Miles Davis vinyl collection from 1955 to 1985.
All right.
Unbelievable. It's so cool. So, I mean, I feel like we've become vinyl talk on the show.
little bit.
Whatever. I'm good with it.
Well, we got Record Store Day early this year. It's in, this will be the 2nd when this is first available, April 2nd, and that's in 10 days, I think. It's early this year. I think it's the 12th.
It does come early, and last time I was at Yellow Record, I talked to him, and he said, yeah, he's ordered 200 and something copies of, the releases, so he should have a pretty good spread of what's coming out. So.
Yeah, Yellow Racket's our local record store, and I think he said in a post that they would have at least one of every single available Record Store Day release, which is
which is
huge. A bold move because you got to sell all those.
Nice.
Record Store Day is actually, it depends on who you ask. People might think because the big sales for the day that record stores just had it is their biggest day of the year, but it can ruin a store. It can ruin an owner because
he's taking a lot of risk, but buying that much inventory, hoping he can sell it.
Yeah, and clearly here locally we've done well enough the last couple of years for him to continue to try that, but that's not a local thing here. That's anywhere in the country, independent record stores. God bless them. Please, please never close your doors. Please, please buy their stuff and keep them open. But so it's going to be a big time here locally. Hopefully, wherever you are, you have a good record store that's participating in Record Store Day. And all you got to do if you don't know is like locally, if you don't know whether your stores are going to be participating on what level, you can just do a Google of RSD Record Store Day, and there's an entire database that will give you from the whole country, what stores are doing what and to what level that they're doing it. So if you're interested, you can find out that information.
And along those lines, I just wanted to add, at the risk of being the old guy in the room, but it's related to Bonnaroo and discovery. What we love is talking about the bands that we discover, but what I also love is finding the rabbit holes, if you will. Find a new band, but maybe figure out where their influences are, and then go back and discover that, like a Miles Davis. I've always said the Blues Brothers movie was my gateway drug to the blues.
Really. That influential, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd never heard of Delbert McClinton before, or even Robert Johnson, to be quite honest. You don't start with Robert Johnson.
No.
You don't start there.
It's not super palatable for the very first,
but
dissection and listen.
Yeah, but to hear B-Movie Boxcar Blues by Delbert and then love it and then get into the rest of the soundtrack and then eventually get to Robert Johnson was a pretty cool journey for me. I mean, it lasted years, but that's my hope. Listening to a lot of the bands that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, they all had influences, and as the old guy in the room, I listened to some of it and I'm like, why not go back to the original? Why not go back to Marvin and Otis and, some of those guys? But that's my speech for the day. All right, what other news? I know, Brian, you got a couple of things you wanted to mention, and I know, Rush, you do as well, and then we'll start talking about some of these lists.
Yeah, let's start with what Festival put out in the last week about the potential of Bonnaroo selling their tickets in full this year, and that it was one of those it's imminent kind of things.
Right.
I have a couple thoughts on it. Where do you want to start, Barry? What do you think as far as
it's funny.
What that information means?
If this had been 15, 20 years ago, we would say, that's just them trying to hype sales. But I think we're to a point now that we all agree that Festival is not in the world of. He's not a rumor monger. He or she, we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the information that comes from Festival, they work at C3. So, we know they have the information. But
right.
And it is a vehicle for that.
Right.
That's a little different. It's actually really, really creative way.
Yeah, it's smart.
This. Like, it works out very, very well. It feels independent. Later, you realize it's Probably not, but you don't really know because there's enough anonymous nature to it. But I wonder, though, there's a difference in selling all your inventory and just deciding you're not going to sell any more tickets. Those are both sold out events. Like they register on the ledger as sold out the same way, just from the basic information.
Right.
But they're not necessarily the same. If you said we all believe that it's an 80,000 capacity.
Correct. And I've been told that specifically.
Yeah, and that's a number that's been pretty true for the entire 21 years. But it's very hard information to come by. I mean, they keep this stuff like in a Fort Knox kind of a lockdown. They don't let you know these things.
The only time they talk numbers is if it sells out.
Yeah, and then they talk about it a lot.
As they should, as I would too.
I know. So that makes me wonder, and this isn't me being, I mean, it's going to sound like it, I guess, speculating that it's not true.
What do you mean? Like they've decided this year that 70 is the number and they're going to say sold out, or?
Well, yeah, and I don't mean that in the sense that they're just blatantly lying. It's just at some point I think that these festival kind of organizations that have it's not like a Madison Square Garden or an arena that
right.
has 18,
one chair, one butt.
Exactly.
One chair, one butt.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
You can't say you can, but you'd be caught lying. The Madison Square Garden is sold out if there's 2,000 seats that didn't sell.
Right.
Now
University of Notre Dame football sold out for like 40 straight years, and they used to have a grocery store that would buy up the unsold tickets.
And that's happened in communities where radio stations or big companies would come in for different reasons, back with blackout dates and those kinds of things.
Right.
And that happens, and that makes it a true, real sellout because the tickets were sold.
Right, I got you.
When you have a more fluid number in a festival setting, I think you might get closer to the date. You're getting closer to, and we're still a little ways out. So maybe this is more. We are approaching that 80,000 number, but where it might make more sense monetarily to say, we're not going to make more money by trying to continue to sell tickets because we have to still deal with shipping. We still have to deal with people then have to pick them up on site. We've created something that makes it more difficult and less profitable by trying to sell a handful of more tickets. What we could do is just say, we're done.
We're at capacity. Maybe
that's
a better word.
There you go. We decided capacity is
based on our staff, based on what we can do, we can handle.
Exactly.
We've hit that number.
And if, let's say they're at 72, I'm making stuff up.
Yeah.
And they can say, well, we can you just made me think of this when you said staff. Like, okay, well, we can change the numbers around where we need staff because where we're at, and then they do the formula of money and be like, we're gonna hit the same profit margin. So let's just maybe buying tickets, selling, and distributing tickets it's a very complicated process. It's not that simple as far as it seems like it should be simpler than it is, and it might be what it is. So I wonder, is it really about to hit 80,000? Is there a combination of everything we're talking about, along with that they are that close? I don't know. It doesn't matter a whole lot.
I was getting ready to ask, do you care?
No.
I mean, I keep thinking about 2016, which was we all know was the lowest sales. Of, the number we've heard is 48,000.
Sub 50,000.
But it was one of our favorite years ever. It was comfortable. They did a great job of making it feel full. We didn't notice. We did because we go and we look. They moved that and they moved this.
Yeah.
And, that we talked about.
But if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know.
Absolutely. You would have thought it was a packed event. Great lineup. It felt comfortable. That's one thing. And that's to my question, does it matter? They do a pretty good job of managing whatever the crowd is, right?
Yeah.
There have been some years where it was way crowded and it was uncomfortable.
Honestly, that 2016 year in some ways was more crowded.
They tightened it up.
Because they tightened it, and it was kind of like, you tighten it a want it a little too much. And I know they want it to look good on their live streams and all that stuff, and I would do the same thing.
Yep.
The move the hill thing. I mean, they moved a lot of things.
Move silent disco, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, so no, does it matter? Nah, doesn't really matter. Except for it is interesting to know based on what you think logistically they're going to do. And then, so I went back to look because
And just
sorry.
real quick, also it means that tickets are selling. People are going. Whatever the number is, whether it's 72, 70, 80, hard 80, whatever.
Yeah, if
It
they
means
were
it's a popular event. So.
if they were significantly down in
Correct.
ticket sales, they wouldn't stop selling them in April.
That's right.
They wouldn't. If they
That's
were
right.
significantly down, they might stop selling them May 1st, or June 1st, because they're that close and they just want to be done with it. Because if at some point you're not going to get to the number you want, maybe, and then you decide at that point. We're not there yet. I mean, you got 2 months, but there is a thing. I mean, there's a formula I've read many times and talked to different people who have confirmed this of deciding how they do all this, and I can't remember what the exact what all the math is, but
no, I think it's a good thing. I think it's what we predicted. It's we felt good when the lineup came out. We felt good when we left the farm last June that the ship had been righted and everything was heading in the right direction.
And it's not just us. I mean, like that was a lot of people thinking that, but there's something with if you don't sell what is like 20% of your capacity or what your goal is within like the first week or something, like if you don't get a certain number within a very, very small amount of time from the jump, you might be in trouble because
right.
I can't speak to it because I'm not in it close enough. But yeah, and I also was looking back because I couldn't remember what years are considered sellouts in Bonnaroo, and that's a depends on who you ask thing. Just like we were talking about with how closely they keep this information, it's only a few.
Yeah.
It's only 5.
That's what I was going to say, 5. That was the number I was thinking.
A couple early, 2019, 2020. Some say 21 almost got there. The hurricane year almost got there. And then 02 and 03 and maybe 04. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, like, this isn't a slam dunk guaranteed sellout thing. But it is get to the number that they're looking for most of the time. So
and beyond just ticket sales, you can look at stuff that is selling like RV and camping, 931 and tents. That is a finite resource.
Yeah,
there is only so many they can sell of those, and those are selling quickly from everything we've gathered. So there seems to be signs that yes, they are moving towards a sellout just because of all of the accommodations that go along with your ticket.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Taco, because one of the specifics in Festival's discussion online through Twitter primarily is where I get it, is group camping numbers are at record highs from everything that without saying here's an official statement.
Right.
The overall point of one of the threads was group camping is exploding.
I can believe it.
I can too. In popularity, and that's just because we spent time there just last year, and I was blown away with what I saw with group camping. You people are amazing. What you do.
Yeah.
But
also to your point about like timing, that's one of those fluid things. Back to the butts and seats thing. It's like. And Brad Parker told us they have to kind of look at it. If group camping explodes, they need to widen that space versus 931. Maybe I don't know how you adjust that one necessarily, but you know what I mean. If one of the other options isn't selling as well, but group is,
open it up.
Yep, the other one shuts down a little bit, and they have to have time to deal with that. Is my point.
Might have something to do with let's get to a cutoff point on tickets so we can get. It's kind of like Barry, the day of show thing.
Correct.
Back in the day when, and I probably might be that way a little bit now, but if you went to an arena show a fixed capacity arena venue, and you showed up in the morning of
Yeah, they always
and
kept
just-
the first 2 rows.
and just hung around.
Yep.
And just hung around for an hour or 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or however many it is, you were probably going to get tickets for face value,
Right.
possibly the best seats in the house.
Yep.
Because they had it's production seats that they had to open. Same concept here.
Yeah, they kept them for label VIP radio people,
Or
you
for
know.
because they weren't sure if the stage is
Correct.
going to cut off that corner.
Correct.
And then we can open up 25 seats and you're standing there. Here you get one.
Yeah, here you go. They'd
So-
rather have somebody in that seat than it be empty.
It was a super secret that was a
Right.
really, really good way to get into shows back in the day. I don't know if it's still that way these days, but same
Speaking of-
concept here is stop selling tickets so that now we can divvy out where everything needs to be.
Speaking
Well,
of
here's a
super
question.
secret, which is no longer a super secret, but we will know soon enough when we start hearing from vendors.
Yeah.
That's they have to get numbers.
Because they need to know how to stock their
how much
yeah.
how many hot dogs and pizzas and beer and whatever to bring. And,
Yeah, and that information starts to come out, much closer to the.
Yeah, we learned that years ago when people like you who work in the industry said, "Hey, they're not ordering the same amount that they did last year, or they are," and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, beer sells anyway. Yeah.
we'll find out.
What'd you have,
So
Taco?
here's a question for you: How many of these single day tickets that they've been selling has contributed to them reaching a sellout? Obviously, they're not going to break down number of tickets 4 day versus 1 day, but do you think it's helped? Do you think it's made a difference? I
That's a
mean,
good
there's been some pushback about the 1 day ticket sales, not necessarily from us because we think it's a great idea, and obviously they do. But
That's a good
maybe
question. My first thought is probably doesn't affect it all that much as far as like the overall number and where they're trying to get. I just don't. I don't think that's a super popular ticket buying option.
probably
But maybe
not.
maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think the hidden meaning behind it, or at least what their idea is, if somebody is on the fence, not sure if they want to commit to a whole weekend, if they can buy a single day, go 1 year, love it, next year they're buying a 4-day pass. So I think it's kind of almost a Trojan horse.
Yeah, could be, or they just single day it every year. That might be the best
Maybe,
option.
maybe
for
somebody
many people.
says this was great. I got in, I got to see what I wanted to see, and I got out.
Yeah.
And maybe they want to do that every year, or maybe they decide they want to do it full time.
Well,
next year.
like you said, I mean, I think we're all in agreement on the single day. I think it's a great idea.
Mhm.
Great idea. And for 20 years, 18 years, 17 years, whatever it was, I was like, why don't they sell single days? And then many people would be like, well, can I get a single day ticket? I'm like, dude, they've never had single day tickets.
Yeah,
Not
it's
once.
really new. Yeah.
And now they do, and I think it's a good idea. So
Well, I can feel it. We've probably caused Brad Parker to pull off the side of the road and scream and yell at his
how many
radio.
things we got wrong?
At everything that we got wrong.
Yeah.
So I can promise you we will have him back on and he will correct all of this. But I also, Russ, you bring up a great point, and it kind of encapsulated everything else we were saying in my head was, can you imagine, how are they figuring all this out? I mean, 80,000 butts in the seat is an easy thing to think about.
It's easy
Break
math.
it down, this many group, this many single day, this many VIP, this many that. I can't wait to ask him how they figured all that out and how they get to, does all of that, to your point, Brian, does all of that add to 80,000? Or is it 72 sliced up this way and that way and capacity?
I mean,
I don't know.
we can't tell Bonnaroo that they're wrong if they decide to say 72 is the capacity number today. Like, that's just what they want to do. It's their festival. It's on a plot of land. They can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
And so, but I do, sometimes I wonder. And then, of course, I do think there's a little bit of a, hopefully we can get one more push, right? They're
Sure.
They've got this. They've got
Sure.
this down to a science as far as these tiers, and I think there's the last, maybe not the last, but one of the last price increases is if it either it's coming up or it just passed. These are not monster price increases, but if you can get it cheaper, you should if you plan on going. So we'll see where it goes. Speaking of Brad Parker and things we kicked around, well, didn't mean for the pun there, when he was on the show, like a kickball tournament, did you see that they're actually having a disc golf tournament on the farm this year?
It
It ain't kickball, but it's just as absurd to me.
Yeah, makes sense. Why not?
It's a like 5-time world champion disc golfer, and they're having some kind of gathering, some kind of tournament to play some disc golf. So
Why not?
I'm sure they'll just throw out a few pin, the little pin things,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a batting cage or something. I doubt you're going to get 18 holes here. I don't know where that would go.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they're only selling 60,000 tickets, and the 20,000 seats where they were going to park cars. That's going to be the disc golf.
Carving
course.
out an acre or two for disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Listen, guys, we got to stop selling tickets because we got to have a disc golf tournament.
Yeah,
Come on now.
I like it.
So that's official. I thought that was almost at first. I was like, wait a second, is this a joke? We've been joking about like kickball. Are they messing with me? But no, looks like that's happening. So as far as Bonnaroo news, that's pretty much where we're caught up on, and I look forward
A little
to seeing
bit. We're going to talk about Goose here in a minute, and then we're going to get into some music. I also do want to tease, and I want to tease it because Brian and I were very open a couple of weeks ago. Bluegrass is not our thing, but we're going to be talking bluegrass next week in a huge way, and I'm really excited about it. So Chattanooga, I'll go ahead and straight up tell you there's no reason not to. Chattanooga is going to host the IBMA, International Bluegrass Music Association. It's not just a festival. It's festival and something else, right? I mean, it's a they have
conference.
music, but workshops and all kinds of.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive deal, and it's coming to Chattanooga for the next 3 years. We're going to have a couple of the organizers as our guests, so I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah, it's a big deal for our town, and so we will be kind of micro focusing a little bit on where we live, which we try not to do too much, just because unless it's big, and this is a real pretty big festival. It's certainly in the southeast, and it's big for our town, and it's moved from Raleigh, North Carolina, where it's been for the last maybe upwards of 10 years, to huge success there. By every amount of I bought a limited time access to the Raleigh newspaper, so I could go back and dig articles out of it to read. I didn't want to just rely on dopes on Reddit. Now, I love Reddit, but I didn't want to rely on them for my information. And there was very little reporting, almost basically none, coming from Raleigh writers and journalists saying anything other than this is a huge success for Raleigh-Durham or Raleigh, North Carolina, and we are just so bummed.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a
yeah.
This is killing us that we're losing this great event, because it's not just a festival, conference. I think you said, Taco, is a very good way of putting it.
Yep.
And that's what I want to find out mostly around here. I still don't quite grasp my entire brain around what exactly it is. And so we'll find out about that here next week.
And you can stick international on anything, but this truly is an international event. So we're very excited, and we'll talk more about that next week. I know you guys saw the news. Goose, I've got some internal strife going on.
Speaking of having to rely on Reddit because there's really nowhere else to go, so we're not going to get into the allegation rumor stuff because that you can do that on your own easily if you want to see that. But
is the goose cooked? That's the question.
Is the goose cooked?
You've been sitting on that for what, a week?
The drummer is out. And the interesting thing with Goose, let's before we get to that exactly, let's just take a step back with Goose just for a minute. A quick kind of just history of the band without getting too deep into it. It's an interesting band. They get a lot of heat, a lot of negative reaction online because of a lot of jam band purists don't think that Goose lives up to what their heroes, like the Fish, Panic, Dead, all the ones you know, Humphreys, whoever else, that they didn't put in the time, the work, and the energy that all these other bands did, and they might not have based on how their trajectory worked. I'm not going to get on to anybody for having success, regardless of how you get it. They've not been around that long, the band Goose, only right at 10 years. And it really was around 2020. They were starting late 19, early 20. They're playing at Bob Weir's Playing in the Sand, Cancun, one of those destination weekend kind of things, and got massive response. Everybody was loving it, and like, who is this new band that's a splice between Humphreys, Fish, and the Dead, basically? A little more polished than a lot of jam band music had become to be understood and appreciated. And then COVID. And so at that time, Peter Shapiro, promoter in the Northeast, owner of Relics magazine, the second oldest rock magazine or magazine dedicated to rock music, just out second to Rolling Stone, and the Brooklyn Bowl, Capitol Theater. This guy's a big player in the. He was the Shapiro was the guy who organized Fare Thee Well for the Grateful Dead, the 50-year send-off, which wasn't hardly a send-off at all 10 years ago. Guy's got a lot of jam band. This is the guy if you're trying to get somewhere. And apparently he has taken them under his wing for this 5-year stretch, and they had these incredible virtual shows that made them a lot of money, and a lot of people benefited from the COVID lockdowns. We got a guy here locally, Nick Lutzko, who did it for a lot of different reasons. On a more national level, Billy Strings. He was nothing in 2020. 2 years later, he's the biggest artist in Bluegrass, certainly, but maybe in jam as well. Goose, same deal. So a lot of people don't unfairly give them a lot of bleep about this, and so now they're being extra nasty online. The fans and Reddit are, and they've had a lot of member changes too. They only have a couple of 3 that are actual original members. So there's this kind of corporate feel around Goose that they were designed in a lab. You know, that Peter Shapiro grabbed the main guy you recognize. Jeff is his name. I don't know. No, it's not Jeff. It's Rick. Sorry, it's Rick, and he has a long last name. He's kind of the pillar of the band, and he's great. But outside of him, it's just been kind of a mix and match. We'll just throw, and all these things have led to people to give them a lot of heat online, that they're just not real, they're not authentic. I don't know if any of that's fair. But then now they've had rumors of this drummer who started with the band in 2020, so he's not an original member. I had to write it out phonetically here because it's spelled weird. Jeff Avarello. Jeff Avarello. I think I'm saying that correctly. Anyway, he's out, and it's because of inappropriate relationships and dealing with women primarily, but nobody really knows what it is, and nobody will say, and maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. That's their decision.
I don't know. I like them well enough. I mean, I'm not a super fan by any stretch, but I like them.
I like them just fine. And the now former drummer Jeff put out a release in the last 5 days or so that, you know, read that he was very disappointed and treated unfairly and all these things. And when all we're dealing with is speculation, that's it. All it is speculation. It makes for a very unfair and very it bothers me. It bothers me when somebody when we're in a reality where somebody can just say something. They can just say something. Just pull it out of anywhere and just say something, and it can wreck your career, it can wreck your life.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't new. I mean, Me Too stuff. I've had a. It's such a delicate topic.
Yeah.
That you don't want to be like, oh, I got something real definitive to say about that. Well, you know, you don't have enough information to do that. The whole thing bothers me when somebody can be taken down because of speculation. And
It's
maybe it's
funny,
not just speculation.
and I meant to mention this earlier, and I'm jumping, and forgive me, but I'll come right back to it. I've just this morning watched Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan thing on Hulu, I guess. It's really good. It's well done. It's entertaining for 2 hours, but I know less about Bob Dylan than I did 2 hours ago. It answers nothing other than he's moody, mercurial, doesn't like the public, you know.
Well, then I don't think I'm going to like it.
And super talented.
You just described Brian.
Yeah. Super talented. I like that. Thank you.
But I also, the reason I say that is because when it ended, the Kiss documentary that I had started began, and they had just gotten to the point where I guess Paul Stanley is talking about why Peter Criss left, you know, and he's like, I thought we would be together, the four of us, forever and ever, and apparently Paul asked him to slow down or something and he blew up, and that was the end of Peter Criss. I mean, and I remember when that happened. Point being, I mean, there's so many things that can happen. I mean, getting a group of people on the same page to like each other and hang out forever, you know, long term is pretty tough.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. Yeah.
It's brutal, and the thing that makes me feel for a guy like this Jeff Avarello, whatever his last name is, for now the former drummer, the thing that bothers me the most with a situation like that is that guy probably has worked his whole life to get to this band. That then the commentary turns into, what did he really do in the band? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what he really did in the band.
Right.
But he was an official member making a nice living with one of the most up-and-coming jam bands in the last 20 years, and now he's out. Right? And so, like, well, he'll be fine. Will he?
Yeah.
Will he? Is he going to get on? Is there another up-and-coming jam band that he's going to meteorically rise and make comparable money and have a living that's going to be able to be what he was always hoping for and felt like he finally got? Dreams crushed. You don't get two of these chances usually.
Yeah,
hey, I made it big time once. Who needs another drummer? Can we go big? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
The guy might never be heard from again. You can do this from Beatles. I'm just using drummers now all of a sudden. Beatles with Pete Best for that, and then how would Pete Best go for the rest of his life? I know it's a bigger name, and that's little different.
No.
Plenty of bands that lose drummers. You know, Pearl Jam had the whole thing where they had 3 drummers early on, and 2 of them are like, I can't believe what I did.
Yeah,
I can't believe I'm not in the band anymore.
I mean, how many did Spinal Tap go through? You know,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Not to mention the optics. I mean, you know, if another band picks him up, is that going to be good press for that band, you know?
And they're not going to, and so not anytime soon. So that just crushes my I don't know, my soul a little bit, because I can relate to getting somewhere, thinking you're there, being so happy, shit happening that you weren't expecting, and feeling like you just got thrown out by everybody you thought cared about you.
Yeah.
I get that feeling, and it's a crushing, soul-destroying feeling. It makes me... But if the guy's a total creep, if he's on the edge of unlawful, well, you know, I don't have that kind of sympathy for him. But we don't know that, and we're not going to know that because of NDAs and the machine, the corporate machine that Goose gets a lot of kind of flack for. It is. They're almost like a jam boy band. They almost are. They almost are. They've been taken by people who know the industry better than they do. Take their talent, utilize it, spread it out. It's the Monkees, it's the Backstreet Boys.
Right.
It could be Goose, and so anyway,
interesting.
I still cannot wait to see their show at Bonnaroo because I need a do-over.
Let's jump in. You put together your early list, and I spent a couple hours this week while at work listening to your list, and I like just about everybody on it. You put it together a little bit based on some suggestions, right, from our Discord people and emails
Couple
and
contest submissions, and
yep.
so yeah, at the end of last week's show, or somewhere in there, we mentioned it for a few minutes, and I had just assembled it that 24-hour period, and so
Yeah.
a week later, I have dived into some of these artists more and more. Do you guys have a few that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah.
Well, I can start with one or 2
Mhm.
here, and we can kind of go from there if that's what you'd like to do.
I do, but I want to read because I'm looking at Discord. Sorry if you're watching and looks like I'm not paying attention, but wanted to thank who else? Rush, you put Joey and Peyton.
Yeah, we've got Peyton, Nicholas, Joey, all kinds of
Is this
Michael.
caramel or caramel? K-A-R-A. I know I say caramel.
I
The
say
candy,
it different
but
every time.
I don't know what
couldn't
this
tell
name
you.
is. I like it though. Okay, but anyway, thank you to you guys for sending. I think a lot of the names Brian ended up on your list. I see Kitchen Dweller there. Daniel Donato, MJ Linderman. That's a favorite, right?
Yeah, we started with that. I want to start with that one here in a minute.
Yeah, let's just go ahead but thank you to you guys, folks. You can go look at our Discord and see all the names. I'm not going to sit and read everything because I can't stand to be read to, so I won't do that to you. But there's a lot of great suggestions in there.
Yeah,
Well,
keep sending suggestions too. We'd
please.
love to keep this going.
I wish I had something to give you to entice you to do it, but I don't. But if you got anything that you think we'd like, I would be just so grateful to be able to. Because I mean, well, I'll start it, and here's it goes well with where I'm starting with MJ Lenderman. I know I brushed on it just briefly last week when I had just listened for a few minutes, and everything I was starting to say then and starting to think, all real. It's the new favorite. It can't miss. I love this music so much from MJ Lenderman, and to the point that before I forget it, as far as the suggestions, I sent this to 2 or 3 or 4 of my indie rock friends, not even necessarily good friends, but just ones that I know that really get into indie rock. I'm like, have I got one for you guys? Check this out. This is going back to my 120 Minutes MTV days when I'd go to school the next day and be like, have you heard of these bands I found last night?
Shout out Matt Pinfield.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. Watching Matt Pinfield educate me, and then I would pretend like I came up with it. Anyway, that was a long time ago. I was a child. But in that same kind of way, I'm still programmed to be the guy. I want to be the guy. I don't need an award. I just want to be the one who said,
I get it.
I told you, man. And I got 3 or 4 responses back from all these people, and 2/3 of them were, yeah, where you been, dude? You didn't know this? You didn't know this? And one of them was, yeah, I told you about him a year ago.
Oh wow.
And that could be a Brad Steiner style, like, I already told you. Like, I don't think you did, Brad.
Yeah, I was into that guy before he was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Brad.
I discovered him.
Yeah, I know. I take some of that too. I do that in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, that Houston team. Been watching them for a couple of years.
Right.
Watching the trajectory. Like, yeah, I saw this one coming. Anyway, so I did get a where you been, dude, on a couple of these. And the more I listen to it, I'm absolutely in love with it. And it blows me away. The guy is 26 years old. And just to kind of tack on to the end of where I started this conversation a week ago, I don't think his songs are about TVA and his grandfather from 1936. I don't think so. But he is from the South, Asheville, North Carolina, and he's 26 years old. And the fact that a 26-year-old guy is this deep into his influences. I don't have the list in front of me. They're names you wouldn't have heard of. Only a couple I've heard. Sparkle Horse is one of them.
I know Sparkle Horse.
Yeah, I know you guys did, but most people don't. Sparkle Horse has has a tentacle that goes out to bands like Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven and so many others. And Cracker and CVB are two of my favorite old school bands. It's wild where the connective tissue on all this is. And he's 26 years old making music that I would have expected to hear in 2007 from some band coming out of Alabama that stopped in at one of our, hole in the walls and that we all loved, but then, probably never hear them again kind of thing. And he's not only that, he is hitting the scene and people are listening to it and loving it. And it's I don't know if it's my beaches this year. I might get to that one actually here in a minute. I got one that might be that, but it's a can't miss.
Yeah.
This is the real deal. I love this stuff.
And I'm glad you said that because it goes back to what I was saying about the whole rabbit hole thing, the discovery. When I'm listening to it, I'm hearing, like you said, 15, 20 years ago and earlier elements, and but it's very new. Yeah, but it's still very contemporary and
stripped down indie rock, man. When indie rock can be dropped into any decade, because it's just what it is. Independent rock. It's just a little different than what you're hearing from all the mainstream.
I don't know if I want to ask this now or let you go through your list a little bit more, but go ahead with your list and then I'll come back to it. My question.
So we talked a little bit about Dope Lemon. That's a really cool sound. Folk rock is what I get a lot from as far as when I'm reading folk rock, and it is mostly electric. The stuff that I like, electrified, plugged-in music, but with the word folk in there, I'm assuming some of it isn't. Dude is a 38-year-old Australian.
Right.
It is one of those overnight after 20 years things.
Yeah.
The classic case. He's at 3.5 million a month on Spotify, which is really, really. I mean, the trajectory is moving high on a number like that, and I like it a lot too. I like it a lot. It's on the stack with my MJ Letterman, and I hear it, and I'm not sure at first, is that MJ or is that Dope Lemon? It's because it's new to me. If it was after I get used to it, I think I'll know the difference. But I'm liking that. Real quick, since we're talking Goose, two of my discoveries were just two new Goose songs.
Yeah.
They seem to be fine. I'm not overly excited. Like, boy, this really, tips the scale. But they sound fine. Sounds like a typical Goose song. Very polished, very tight, almost too tight. That's kind of my biggest complaint about Humphreys McGee and J-Rad, Joe Russo's Almost Dead, is that it's just so tight. It's so crisp. It's like this stuff's supposed to be a little sloppy.
Yeah,
it's jam music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a touch too crisp, but it sounds great. And then I'll veer off and let you guys take one or two and whatever thoughts you've had. But Mannequin Pussy.
Yeah.
Mannequin Pussy.
Yep.
What a band name, first of all.
Yeah.
That I would have never signed off and been okay with 10 years ago. But now, all bets are off, man. Call your band whatever you want. These gals, and mostly women, they might have a male member come in or out, from Philadelphia, started in 2010. They're only in the 500,000 a month listenership, which sounds like a lot, and to some people it is, but it's really not that high. But they've had a constant turnover of band members over these years. Don't know what that means. I just know that it's a fact. With one, Marissa DeBice, being the only original member from 2010, but they've actually have dueling lead singers, both females, and it is. What Bear, did you listen to it at all?
Yeah.
It's scratchy, it's raw, it's grungy.
It's got a little Courtney Barnett if she were in a punk band.
Good call, good pull. It's got this we're rough, edgy, and then and then like, whoa, where did this come from? That's so great. Like, what a transition from we're making noise
Yeah.
in the garage.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, man, it's great harmonizing.
Yeah.
I like it a lot, and they could turn into the beaches for me, where I have to stalk them on the farm and get a picture. Because, I don't know. I'm not that.
Well,
far
hopefully
away.
you'll recognize them when you're
Yeah.
standing next to them, if you do.
I know. We still got to tell that story in its entirety one of these days.
One of these days.
But yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's
And,
great.
From Mannequin Pussy. And then I got a couple more, but if you guys want to jump in with anything you've stumbled on.
No, I haven't really. Like I said, I mostly just listened to your list.
Yeah, and I actually spiked it with stuff like Avril Lavigne, Megadeth, just to give it like that, because I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of playlists in their long form, and I was like, I might as well throw in some of these, and then I'm like, I need to get rid of these.
Well,
I
what
need
I
this
was
Avril Lavigne
gonna,
out here.
my question was, maybe it's even just more of a comment, but as I was listening to it, I mean, I knew because it was your list, it was going to be relatively cohesive. And I don't mean this insulting, but you have a lane. You like your lane. You're not going to stray too far afield.
Well, I also did music radio for forever, so
Correct.
I have a basic, or at least industry understanding of how you should layer out some stuff. But I did it very quickly, and I'm not trying to.
I know, but my point is, like I said, I had it on at work while I was doing, and I was like, I like all of this. I like the way it flows, and I guess my thought was, it just seemed a little. We talk about lanes at Bonnaroo all the time, but maybe I don't remember a lineup that had so many different things. How am I trying to say
that
this?
were also somewhat similar, maybe?
Yeah, that were. I don't know. They always, as Brad says, they always try to get whatever the zeitgeist is, and they do. But typically it's one here and one there, maybe. We know there's a lot of EDM, but then there's a legacy act. This year feels like there's quite a bit that can fall into that list like you put together.
Yeah, a lot of indie rock.
Correct.
A lot of
There is.
yeah. And I
Does that
love
make
it.
sense? Am I saying that?
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, the if you want me to, I can just run through these here and knock them out quickly. Royal Otis was another one.
Yep.
Another Australian. That is a duo. I don't know if it's just the two, or I didn't get far enough. If it sounds like they have a fuller band for the recording, but the band is actually only two guys, and they're one of those bands, kind of like Flip Turn and many others that we've talked to, that had a song or two that hit on a video game. That the video game exploded. And that's where that was wild to me when I first learned.
I know, right?
And it shouldn't have been. E-gaming's this ain't new.
No. Our own Suevo here in town makes a good living thanks to video games with his music.
It's wild. It's so cool.
It's awesome.
I think it's great. And so that's the same thing Royal Otis did. After the couple of video game hits, it looks like they had about two that really did well. They were signed to Capitol Records in 2024, and they've been around another one of those 10 years, and just last year to a major label. So I like that. But I'm still very new to that one. But and quickly I'll throw Daniel Donato out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only one that I didn't like. I don't like it. And I just quit listening to it. I've been familiar with him. He's played here in town a couple times. It's kind of like this cosmic cowboy jam band. I don't want to call it tribute because it's not a tribute, but he covers a lot of jam and professionally records it, which I find unnecessary. Like he did a Fire on the Mountain. The Grateful Dead's Fire on the Mountain. Maybe it's not even the Grateful Dead's. Maybe it's some tradition. I don't even know. Do I really need a 10-minute version of Fire on the Mountain, Daniel Donato, recorded on your... I don't really think I need that. But so I fell out of love with, or whatever love I wanted to have for him with that playlist. Only one. That's the only one that I didn't like more afterwards. The final one on my today's list, Dogs in a Pile.
Glad you
First
mentioned
of
them.
all, That's a great band name, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I think, like, I don't know where it come. What I'd love to know the story. Well, I mean, it's probably just a bunch of dogs laying around in a pile. Hey, dogs in a pile. But they are a jam band, and by every metric, by every definition, and they're a 5-piece out of Brooklyn. So I'm sure Brad Steiner, knows them and discovered them too. But I started looking at some of their set list just to make a quick run, just kind of skimming through set list, and they cover music, other bands, almost every show. And I could see someone or me saying, why are you doing that every show? Well, the difference with this is these are covers of these bands that you don't know unless you know. And so if you're just watching a show, you wouldn't even know you're listening to a Dead cover. I wrote down a few: the Grateful Dead, Leonard Skinner, Ween, Chris Christopherson, and the Kinks. Just in like 5 set lists,
Nice.
those 4 or 5 wide-ranging artists, they're throwing in on their set list, and it's not. I don't know the Kinks well enough to remember the song. Ween, Voodoo Lady. You know
Yep.
that one?
Mhm.
I'm gonna baby in the voodoo. I mean, that would be incredible. That's not something that everybody knows. Leonard Skinner. I don't know how much you guys go with Leonard Skinner deep. You know the song Mr. Banker?
No.
Mr.
And
Banker.
I thought I knew Skinner pretty well.
Dude,
I
yeah,
don't know that.
This
That's
one.
is
too
at the
deep for me.
bottom of the anthology, B-sides,
Wow.
a box set that I did once have. Mr. Banker, please. It's a great little stupid song that would never make it on a radio. They cover that. I am in love with Dogs in a Pile. I can't wait. They're
Yeah,
playing
they
here
did the
locally.
Kinks 8-man. That's a deep cut. So they go deep,
Yeah.
deep.
It's
I'm glad you mentioned them because
Yeah.
they are coming to Chattanooga April 16th. Did you know that?
Oh,
They are. It is one of the a list of all the incredible April fun things to do around here. And I think I'm probably going to have to go. Probably.
I think I'm going to go too.
Yeah.
Barry?
It
all right.
is-
Yeah, let's do it.
It is jam, but not. It's a little different. It's a little more stripped down rock and roll, at least for my
Yeah.
initial listening. Right? Wouldn't you say so, Taco? Like, I mean,
Yeah, because I've played them a little bit too, and I agree. Because I'm not super into jam probably
yeah.
as much as
Normally
you are.
you're
but,
not at all. Yeah, not really. Anyway.
But no, I dug Dogs in a Pile for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's hard for me to turn down an April local show, so
Mhm.
maybe we could start. Yeah, now I'm thinking out loud. So anyway, that's what I've got on that list. I started last week, and because seriously, guys, I say it all the time, and I mean it. All those suggestions came from you, the listener, the viewer, the participator on social media. That list came from you guys. I
Yes,
could have
thank you.
stumbled on some of that by myself. Totally could have. But that was a nice curated start, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if you're bored, I got nothing to give you except for a thank you and a I don't know, a King of the Pop ice cream if I found you on the farm, right, or something like that.
Well, that's
King
a
of
good way
Pops.
that's a good way to put it because I appreciated the list you curated based on that. So,
Well, and to be fair, all I did was take their most listened to
Yeah,
songs
sure.
and
Mhm.
put them on that list. And so, I mean, it's not like I went and combed through it. I just found the top listens and threw them in there. And
yeah,
that's
I
what
put
got.
those lists together, and I've thought about doing the deep dive. That just to be clever. Like, look how hard I worked, and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking the best ones, the
No
ones
one's-
everybody likes, and that's what I'm going with.
No one except for maybe me. Maybe me. No one else is going to be like, damn, Barry, that was a good deep dive. you
Yeah.
did there. Why didn't you pick the ones everybody's already heard?
Yeah, I want to exactly. It's just
So-
showing off, is what that is.
Yeah.
type of
And
thing.
so I will eventually do that.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
My list will expand, and I don't know how many people care to take a look at it. I might start a whole new one, but it was a exciting way to start this discovery process?
Yeah, like I said, when I put it on, thinking, typically my mind wanders, and if you'd have had two songs in a row that I didn't like, I would have moved on to something else. But I got pretty well through the list, and
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and
it's good
and
stuff.
that's why I threw a little Megadeth in there and a little Avril Lavigne and a
Yeah.
little whatever else, because like if you're trying to learn new stuff and it's just new,
Right.
eventually it's just like I'm just being inundated with stuff I don't know. Oh, there's Symphony of Destruction. Dun dun dun. Dun, dun. All right, now I'm back to new. So that was the point of that.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
anyway, we'll keep doing those, and anything you guys have to add on that.
No, I'm not going to add anything today. We're well over an hour. I don't know, Russ, if you wanted to get into a list today, or if we want to kind of do this individually as we move on. I'm
Yeah,
whatever you want to do.
I got my list ready.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, you did mention Dogs in a Pile, which I put on there, but also D Spitz. Have you heard of these?
Yep.
I think it's German. If my German is correct, it's the Point or the Sharp, maybe, which is a pretty good name. This is an all-female punk band.
Yep.
And it is heavy and loud.
And it came from that Discord. I don't remember who
Okay.
recommended
That
it.
was
but-
also one of the
All
recommendations.
female punk band.
Yes, really good. This other one, and this was on the Infinity Stage lineup, Washed Out. This is kind of that dream pop, not quite EDM, but definitely in the style of Beach House, Chromatics. I love that stuff, and I figured out where I saw them. This was one of the first shows that they played was at the Signal in Chattanooga. It was I don't think they were even open yet. This might have been like a soft open thing, and I think I got in somehow, probably through Brad, and Washed Out was who played. So I think this is going to be a good pick for the Infinity Stage, especially with all of the different ambient sounds and just the 360 sound stage. I think it's going to be awesome.
Cool.
That's probably back when Tara was running the place.
Indeed,
or Kent
and that might be
That's
where we
probably
got
why you
tickets
got
from.
there.
Yeah. I had to go back and figure out, because I knew I'd seen them somewhere, and that's what it was. Also on my list, I put Slightly Stupid. Do you know these guys?
I do not like slightly stupid.
You don't like them?
I don't hate them, but I don't like them. They're kind of aren't they like a little ska?
Yeah, kind of a little
jammy,
reggae.
Yeah.
But also folk and kind of rock. Sublime probably is the closest that I thought of when I heard them.
I saw them at Sweetwater 420 like
Mm-hmm.
8, 9 a while ago, and that's a bunch of jam, and or at least it was then, and it still mostly is. And they covered Nirvana, and it wasn't up to my standards.
Sacrilege.
So I hate 'em.
Good to know.
I hate them.
At least they didn't do Pearl Jam, right?
That would have been the worst.
Well, at least I didn't pick Kitchen Dwellers.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, Quick Kitchen Dwellers are fine musicians. Yeah.
Bill Murray is another one I started to get into. Bilmuri, which is kind of a tongue-in-cheek name. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek act. It's a
Yeah, what is
his name.
explain it at all? Can you explain it?
It's kind of emo. It's kind of punk, a little hardcore, but also kind of pop. But it's also very self-aware. I think there's a lot of like kind of in-jokes in this. He didn't seem to take himself too seriously. And I just
With
like
that
the sound of it.
name, you'd figure.
Yeah, with that name, yeah.
How good you?
Yeah. And then my
Different
final,
spelling of Bill Murray.
Right.
yeah, Bilmuri, which is when when I first heard it, I thought, what, Bill Murray? That's who I was looking for on the lineup, but I didn't see it at first because it's spelled different.
Right.
It took me a minute to figure out, oh, that's Bill Murray. Okay. So not actual Bill Murray, but I do like the name.
Yeah, it's good.
And then my final pick for this week is Cults. This is
The
indie
Colts.
pop. It just says Cults. I don't know if it's
Colts.
the Cults.
Colts.
But it's a boy and a girl duo, indie rock. It's kind of got a 60s kind of dreamy sound to it. Kind of like what
that.
you're saying, Barry. Like, why not just go back and listen to the original? This was one that kind of reminds me of that. But after a few plays, I think this is on my list.
Did you find any that you didn't like?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
nothing that I just absolutely hated.
Yeah,
I know
I
there's stuff
mean-
that's not for me, but you know.
To
Yeah.
clarify with the Donato thing for me is just that um, it's really bouncy. It feels like it's a kind of try hard, to use young people language. Wannabe was what I would call it.
Yeah.
It feels like it's forced. I would not go. If I walked by and Donato's playing, and he also covers some Fish, which I like the sound of some of that. I would certainly stop in and give it a look. But
Yeah.
Of my initial list, I was so happy with everything on it except for the Donato. And when I play, because a few times I would play it and just put it on and then walk away for a while, and
Yeah.
I don't know who's up next.
Yeah, right.
It didn't take long to be like, there's Donato. I got to get over here and play.
It's funny you say that because the other thing about when I was listening to your list, like I said, I was working, and so when you're doing it that way, you don't know who's playing. But there were 2 or 3 times where I went back to the computer to say, "Who is this?"
Yeah, I thought Dope
know.
Lemon and
Dope Lemon.
I thought Dope Lemon and MJ Lenderman
Yep.
blended in a little.
Mannequin Pussy. All
Yeah.
3 made me go find out who that was.
Yeah, Dope Lemon and MJ Lenderman, I got them confused at first a couple of times. Now, after I know them better, there's nothing to confuse.
Yeah.
But at first, I was like, wait, is that another MJ?
Right,
That sounds
right.
a little different. So it was fun exercise. It always is, and I'm gonna try to make another one. And again, guys, if you want to send anything, even if it's just in the Discord, hey, tell Brian to check out Barry Can't Swim, or
Yep.
insert.
Yes,
something.
please. Yeah.
I'm gonna do the same.
what.co/Discord if you want to drop in and give us some suggestions. Keep them coming. We're going to keep diving into the list. I think we've got a schedule coming out in the next few weeks, right?
What would you? Yeah. What do you guys think? Where we putting a guess on that? I can't think of precedents in the past, and it doesn't matter with Bonnaroo because they don't do anything twice. Really, it's like came out last year on this day. Well, that means it probably won't be this year, but it's got to be pretty soon. You think?
It's got to be. It seems like April sounds likely. They've got to be working on it for sure.
It could be the first week of May. Could be.
Could be.
Could be. I can't wait though.
Yep.
Boy, that's gonna
Absolutely.
that's some stressful times in Bonnaroo, the orbit for people, and I it's gonna be so many. Like Barry, you said it the minute we did the live show with the release of the lineup. Like these conflicts
Yeah.
are just gonna be off
Gonna be
the
terrible.
off
Yeah,
the charts.
Yeah.
So,
And that may make some choices for you if there's 2 really
Oh, it
bad
will.
conflicts. Yep.
it will.
And I'm really, the more I learned, curious about the Infinity. Like, I could see me hanging out there if it's possible. I mean, if it's one of those where you can't get in, then
Might not
obviously
be.
I'm not gonna. So
My
I'm-
first thought is I might not make it into the Infinity stage this year because it might be the
too
popularity of it might make it too much. But boy, it's too irresistible.
I know.
It might,
And-
yeah.
and it's
Well,
gonna be
Washed Out is
close.
definitely going to get me in.
It's
Yeah.
it's the closest one to us almost.
That's
It
true.
is. What did you say? Definitely going to get you in, Taco?
Washed Out.
Oh yeah. Well, and Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Sax. Oh yeah.
I
yeah.
want to
Forgot
go
about that.
see Sasquatch so bad at the Infinity stage. So
Yeah.
we'll
Good
see.
call.
But yeah, that's a good first start, and I was already excited. I always am. I'm more excited now because I mean, this lineup, I outside of about 3, like Queens of the Stone Age, and I need it in front of me, but maybe 3 or 4 more tops. It's not a lot, 5 or 6 that are like gotta see.
Mhm.
I understood how great this lineup was the minute I saw it. Doesn't mean I needed or even wanted to see all of it. And to get those few that you just mark on the calendar and you get a big red mark, Sharpie, and then highlight it in there also, like that's the show. That gets exciting when you put a few of those together that you're going to be able to see.
Yep.
And
And they're throughout the weekend. They're not all
Yeah.
on the same day,
Yeah,
which
it's all spread out.
can
that
happen.
you can spread it out. So
And then
that's
there's the next level of I'm going to be really happy if I see any one of these.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
It's
good.
gotta-
It's pretty strong.
Yeah.
All right.
Beyond
Anything
the
else?
lineup, yeah, beyond the lineup, we do have some other Bonnaroo news. Montucky. Montucky was named as beer this year.
Oh, that comes in the blue can, right? Isn't that the
Blue can with the horsey on it. Yeah.
All right.
I like a Montucky.
I don't know anything about it.
I just know some of your.
It's not Corona.
It's not. It's not Corona. It's not Miller Lite.
It's not Miller
It's also
Lite.
not PBR, thankfully.
Not
but,
PBR.
So that comes. What we've got a lot of. Isn't it White Claw this year? Is that one of the big beer sponsors?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Also,
wait.
Sierra Nevada was added on there. I think
Oh.
that's more of like a IPA.
Yeah, Pale Ale. That's a man. Sierra Nevada. Once upon a time. That you want to talk about the jam band origination of things, 30 years ago. Boy, if you weren't drinking Sierra Nevada, you weren't cool. You were not a cool guy. It didn't matter how cool you thought you were wrong.
Right. Yep, there it is. White Claw's on there. Smirnoff Ice, Athletic, which is the NA beers.
The NAs.
Yeah.
Best
And it's
NA brand you're going to find, too.
Pretty neat to see that as a major beer option.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% because every now and again I do want an NA beer, and I want a good one, and Athletic is a very, very good one. So the vending options are really good this year. I like that.
Agreed.
I like that a lot.
I thought that was worth mentioning.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
What else?
I think that's got it. Well, I mean, what else? Yep, that's it.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Good stuff. We will be back talking Bluegrass. Don't know when. I'll do my list. We'll see how next week times out. But we've got some more guests lined up as well. So.
Yeah, we're taking a field. We're taking a field trip on this one, so we're actually excited about this. But
Well, once the schedule does come out, we'll probably dedicate an episode each of all of our deep dives, day by day. Here's what I want to go see.
Oh, the official picks, yes, of course.
The official picks, yeah.
I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that.
So
All right.
make sure you subscribe. We appreciate you listening.
Like, share,
All that.
comment,
Yeah.
do a
Rate.
do a backflip.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned rating because it really does help. If you pull this up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and just give us a 5-star whatever rating, leaving a review helps too. It really does.
Yep. Absolutely.
It does. I forget about that stuff every single second of my life in this space, as they would call it. So thank you for bringing that up, Tucker, because I never remember to do that.
All right. Thanks, guys. And Brad Parker, call me. I know you got thoughts. You got notes.
What do we mess up?
What did we get wrong?
You sons of bitches!
See you guys. Bye.